All right. Okay, I was saying that as we are concluding, some of things I think we have to revise so that we may remind each other where we started. And yeah, we're going to do it together because I think today we're just gonna look at two countries which we haven't looked at. That's Alonel, you're saying video, please. I don't know what's wrong. Is there anything wrong with my video?
Alonel, we're not sure what you mean. Letwin, by the way, Toby is here to interpret for you, so just beware that she's in the background. So
okay,
don't be too fast.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Maybe Alonel is having network issues. Okay. I was saying that as we're concluding, we're going to revise. Then we're gonna look at the two nations or the two countries that we haven't looked at, which is Libya and Yemen. So let me just list those countries which we have looked at. We have looked at Africa, China, Venezuela, Turkey. Which other one? Ukraine. Yeah, and well, I think really in Syria. Okay, I would like that Sister D, you mute everyone so that there won't be any interruptions from other people talking in the background.
All right.
Okay. All right. So at the end of the discussion, I'll give each and every one of us 2 minutes just to tell us what we learned about, whichever country that will be allocated to you. But then firstly, I would like us to, those that are here, to volunteer or just to pick for themselves that we now give a summary on China. I'm not asking for a detailed explanation, just a simple, if we can just mark, because as we're looking at these nations, we identify that you can mark, like they call it the bookend concept, that you can mark that all the events that culminated in 2019, they all began in 2014. So if, for example, Africa, if you can say, okay, with Africa, what happened is that 2014, Putin, is sanctioned, or Russia is sanctioned, and then it starts to look for other markets or other places to counter that, and then that you're marking 2014, and then you're marking then what happened in Africa in 2019, and all that. So 2 minutes is just too much. Some maybe might give a summary in 1 minute, 30 seconds. It's okay. I just want all of us to say something. So I can see who the participants are, but then for now, at least for now, I would like us not to volunteer. If people are not volunteering, then I'll allocate. But I think it would be fair enough, people just speak for themselves. Now I want to summarize China or Turkey or Ukraine. So let's begin. Please volunteer. You know, you don't need to hide. I can see who is here and who is not here. And please,
is it okay now?
Alonel Syria. Okay.
It is a mute, bulijjo bw'ebeera bw'etyo.
Okay, Alonel has volunteered Syria. Who else? Another volunteer, please. Let's volunteer. Okay, I don't want us to waste time. If people are not volunteering, then I'll allocate. And I think that one will be really hard. So I'm just giving you at least 10 seconds. Please volunteer. Anyone for Ukraine? Okay, we'll make it easier then. I'll choose for people. Okay. Ukraine will be number. Number needs, so you take Ukraine. And let me see. Bongepiwa Eunice, I think Bongepiwa Eunice. Is that Mambu Telezi?
I'll try Africa.
Gracious.
I said I'll try to summarize Africa.
Gracious. Okay, and China will be taken by let me check again. Will be taken by coach. Nombuso, you just came in, you take Venezuela.
And Chang'an is here. He'll take Turkey.
Okay. Chang'an. All right. Thank you, people. You just get okay. So at the end, you get 2 minutes, and then we put the whole thing, summarize, and that will be it. Please don't run away. If you're having network problems, make sure by the time we summarize, everything is settled. Yeah? Okay. So I'll need this. How will I take note of it? Okay, so we are going to start with Yemen, and at least with Yemen, let me at least be frank upfront is that with Yemen, really there is I haven't seen anyone doing a study or marking a specific event that took place 2019, but then it is there is a civil war that also began 2019, but then things have not taken in certain direction really. And I think maybe with Yemen, it's all gonna culminate at Peniam. But to mark specifically something that transpired in Yemen 2019 and all that, even when Sister Tess or Elder Tess did her presentations on the spheres of influence, she didn't do Yemen, but then she marks it as a sphere of influence where the king of the north and the king of the south are fighting. But then when it comes to Battle of Raphia specifically, nothing is marked there. But then I'm just gonna do it so that we understand the events that transpire there, or that are, you know, all the dynamics, because we still need to follow events and see how the Battle of Peniam, which is really 4 months. I mean, Peniam is gonna start in a few months' time. That's 2021. So we need to have an understanding, at least the background of what's going on, and and be able to follow along. Okay, so where is Yemen? Yemen is in the Middle East, right? So I'll just say this is the map of Middle East. So Yemen is at the southern, or like at the bottom part. So if this is Yemen, just above it is Saudi Arabia. And I think you have UAE, United Arab States, and we have Qatar, and we have Qatar, and we have, oh, I've forgotten. And then there's that Gulf, and then you have Iran on the other side. Okay, so you remember last time when we were doing Syria, we say that the Middle East, I mean, yeah, in Middle East there are two nations that are battling for influence, and we say it's Saudi Arabia and Iran. And we say that Saudi Arabia is a Sunni Muslim, is a Sunni, their religion is, okay, in the Muslim religion you have the Shias and the Sunnis. So but not, them, they are the Sunnis, then Iran is the Shias. Okay, so Saudi Arabia wants, or Saudi Arabia would want to, or actually its mission, or what it wants, is to take control of all the countries in the Middle East, and it does that by making sure that all the governments are led by Sunni, by the Sunnis. And also on the other hand, Iran is also fighting that the Shia also takes dominance, and at least all the governments be led by the Shia. So what happened is that in Yemen, we had since 1990, we had a Sunni president. So really, Saudi Arabia was happy with that and wants to keep it at that, leave it as it is. But then in 2011, I think 2011, you have Arabic Spring Revolution. There was just so many revolutions happening everywhere, Middle East, and even in Africa. So because so you have a Sunni president called Saleh ruling Yemen since 1990. 1990. And the people were not happy, were happy with the way things are because of poverty, lack of employment, lack of this and all that. So there were those spring revolutions. So they were hoping that they'll get something better. And in the Middle East, there is a coalition of that is called the Gulf Cooperation Council. It's called the GCC. Maybe you have heard of it, or you just hear the summary GCC. It's Gulf Cooperation Council. Council. It's a coalition of the Sunni countries, really. It's Saudi Arabia, the EAU, Qatar, Kuwait, and Oman. I left out Oman. Is it Oman or what? But there's another country somewhere here. Okay. So all these countries, they have a coalition called what? The Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC. And this cooperation is of the Sunni nations, right? So in Yemen, 2011, there are revolutions. The people want to overthrow what? The president. And the president is what? Is Sunni. So what these countries did was that they tried to intervene. And they said, okay, we're gonna okay, so since you don't want this president, they try to intervene and say, okay, we're gonna help you to set up, another government that will meet all your needs and provide, all your wants and all that. Okay, so what this coalition did was to then force Saleh to step down. So that's happened in 2011. So Saleh steps down, and then in his place they put what's his name? I think it's a Hadaf or something. Hadi. Okay. So they force him to step down, and then in his place they put Hadi. No, he has a long name. I just took a Smolanyana portion. You can Google it. They put Hadi, who was the vice president of Saleh, But then Saleh, of course, was not happy with that. I was not involved in all these negotiations. But then the GCC made sure that they put back their ally, really, who is still what? Sunni. But then the mistake that they did is that they didn't involve Saleh in these negotiations. He was not happy with the decisions that this GCC did here in Yemen. Okay, so and 2011, in 2009, in 2014, a revolution the main tribe, the Houthis, you know, it's a group called the Houthis. And Houthis are a Shia, they're under the Shia sect, or the Shia, whatever, I don't know what to call it. Okay, so in 2014, the Houthis, and you remember we said that Saleh was not happy with the negotiations of 2011. So when this revolution broke in 2014, Saleh joined together or made a coalition or allied with the Houthis now to fight against who? Fight against the Hadi. So Saleh had he had people that were still loyal to him, like people in the military and all that. So when he came back now to fight against the Hadi, even some of the military split, and so in 2014 Saleh plus the Houthis. And you remember the Houthis are what? Are a Shia group. And they are really fighting against who? Hadi. And you say the Hadi is backed by who? By the GCC. Because you Sunni, the GCC, this Sunni coalition in the Middle East. See that? Okay, so as from 2014, you have this civil war, and the Houthis were being supported by Iran. We have Iran, supporting the Houthis, because remember they are Shias, and you have Hadi being backed by Saudi Arabia and the coalition. And so really that has been what has been going on, and there seems to be no direction where things are going, but things continue to be getting worse and worse. And really the reason why Saudi Arabia is okay, like Saudi Arabia is the one that has really been on the forefront in bombing and doing all this, bombing, killing people, and devastating really the whole country. And as though they claim that, or Saudi Arabia, they claim that they're only bombing, or their targets are the military bases and all that, but then that's not true, because they're also targeting the schools, the hospitals, and and other places. And really the reason why Saudi Arabia is really at the forefront, or is really not giving up, or is really pushing for this, it's because it really doesn't want the influence of Iran right at its borders. You can imagine if Hadi is overthrown, or if the Houthis then manage to take over Yemen, then Yemen becomes a sphere of influence of what? Of Iran, and becomes a Shia government. And that's a threat right at the door of Saudi Arabia. And I think we do get a principle, if perhaps if you have an enemy, you don't want to sit next to them, or you don't want them right next door. At least, want them a bit far, like it just makes sense. So I'm just saying that even with the countries, they don't want to have their their enemies right at their door. And of course, Saudi Arabia wants to restore and maintain Hadi's influence. Oh, by the way, when this revolution began in 2014, now Hadi fled and went to Saudi Arabia. So in Yemen, really, things there is no leader, there is no direction, there is no government as yet. There hasn't been any direction, things trying to be solved. So Hadi is hiding safely in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, and of course Saudi Arabia wants to keep Yemen, prevent it from fragmenting, and it wants to protect its southern border. But then, you know, the saddest thing really about Yemen is that as these other foreign nations are getting involved in the civil war, especially this GCC or Saudi Arabia, what it has done, it has blocked all the borders, land, sea, and air. It has blocked all the borders, and you know, in Yemen, it is said that there are 24 million people are starving. You know, or you know, there's famine. You know, 24 million people need assistance. You know, or they need they need support from outside of Yemen. You see, but then the fact that Saudi Arabia has blocked all the borders, land, sea, air, whatever. So support from other nations or from the UN or wherever cannot reach Yemen. And of course, it's not only Saudi Arabia that's doing that. Even the Houthis, they've destroyed some of the assistance, that was trying to come in to save those people. So really, if you watch the videos of what's happening in Yemen, it's the saddest thing I've seen. It's really bad, and even the people are suffering. Before COVID came, the majority were suffering from cholera because of poor sanitation, and it's just very bad. And of course, Saudi Arabia and these other nations, they're getting their weapons from America. So I think around 2014, when this civil war began, Obama was in a dilemma, in a way, because it's around the time when the Iran nuclear deal was still being discussed. And okay, anyway, we remember that Saudi Arabia and United States really have been in allies for a long time. Yeah? So around 2014, we have this Iran nuclear deal, and Saudi Arabia kind of felt like USA was starting to betray them and all that. So around the same time, we have this civil war in Yemen, and Saudi Arabia wanted United States to sell weapons to them and all that. Obama and his administration, they weren't quite sure really if it was the right thing to do, but then just to save the relationship, because already it was kind of getting tense because of that Iran nuclear thing, because they're gonna lift sanctions of Iran, and there were negotiations going on. So just to please Saudi Arabia, then they agreed to sell weapons to them. So the weapons that Saudi Arabia and even other nations under this GCC have been using to destroy Yemen American weapons. Around 2017, the House of Representatives, because of seeing, how, people are suffering in Yemen, and all that, they say, you know what, America needs to stay out of this. Though American soldiers are not there, though American soldiers are not there, like fighting, in the Civil War, but then the weapons that are being used there, they are American weapons. So they try to, to stop America from supplying Saudi Arabia with the weapons. And of course, the bill was passed at the House, but then Trump did not. What do they say? Say he vetoed it. Is it veto? I think that's the right word. So, but he did not approve the bill, so it had to go back to the House and for the House to override Trump's powers. It now had to, a 2/3 of the House were to vote for that, and they just could not find that number. So even up to date, the war is still going on, and the people are continuing to suffer in Yemen. And it seems the civil war is not coming to an end very soon, and people continue to suffer. So basically, that's it with Yemen. Anyone has something to say? Any questions before we move on? Okay, no one is saying anything. So we'll go to Libya. Libya, so I'm just gonna erase this. Okay, so also with Libya, the revolutions began in 2014. So I guess with all the nations, the trigger, because when you go to Syria, it's the same story, Venezuela, 2011 revolution. So, but then what the cause of that revolution was the death of Gaddafi. I think we kind of familiar with the death of Gaddafi. Maybe we might not know all the details of why and all that, but then okay, so 2011 Gaddafi, and before then, Libya was a sphere of influence of Russia, I think we know. And when he died, of course, Putin was traumatized by his death, and he was not happy. That's why I think if we have watched, the videos of you know, of okay, let me leave that. Okay, so after the death of Gaddafi, that's what caused the revolutions in 2014. And called Haftar. I think that's how we spell his name, Haftar. So Haftar used to be a good friend of Gaddafi back in the 1980s. But then their relationship went bad and his life was threatened. He ran away, he flew to United States, and he stayed there for a very long time and even got a US citizenship. But then after the death of Gaddafi, that's around 2013 or 2012, I think, he went back to Libya, now to try and be the leader really, or be the president in Libya. So he does that with the help of Egypt and and um, and and
Okay, one more time.
okay.
More butter, please.
Okay, so he comes back in Libya, trying to take over the government 2013. So and of course, and he did that with the help of Egypt. So the problem in Libya is that you have two rival administration. You know, we have two administrations that are fighting, or that, yeah. So just like with the just like in okay, in America you have the House of Representatives and we have the Senate. The two branches under Congress. So now in their administration, the House, what is called the House of Representatives, the House of Representatives, and the other one is called the Government of National Accord. Government of National Accord. One is on the eastern part of the country, and of course the sun is on the western part of the country. So this one is in a city called Trobuk. Trobuk, and this one is in Tripoli. And Tripoli is the capital of Libya. Yeah? Capital of Libya. And so this house, or this branch of the government, has been taken hold by Haftar and almost all the national army. So the government this side, or the house this side, is backed by Haftar, and almost all the army, the national army. And the one the side, it's backed by the United Nations, And not only the United Nations, I'll just list all the allies. You have Italy, Qatar, Turkey, and yeah, and even some Islamic groups are on this side, Islamic groups, other Islamic groups this side. And Haftar is backed by, you have Egypt, UAE, France, Russia, Saudi Arabia. UAE, France, Russia, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. Okay, so it has been really hard now to govern, Libya. You can imagine if the government is just split into two, the house, because both of these, they wanna, they're fighting for dominance, fighting to take over Libya. So this side we have Haftar with the army, and of course these nations are backing him. And on the other side we have UN, recognizing this government here. But then the problem is that the majority of the army is that side, and maybe if I can say 95%, and here you have 5%, and most of the army is from the foreign nation, especially Turkey, Qatar, and all that. So the United Nations recognizes this as the government, or as the ruling, as the rulers of Libya. On the other hand, we have Haftar, but then most of the land, or most of the ground, has been taken by Haftar. So as from 2011, of course, this has been going on, and negotiations were made to try to bring this to an end. And Haftar seemed to be cooperating, but then 3 days last year there was going to be a United Nations Council just to deal with the crisis in Libya, and it was going to be in April 2019. And 3 days before that, before the meeting, he bombed Tripoli, the capital, and that made it difficult for that meeting to take place. And it became clear really that Haftar was not cooperating, and things were not going in the right direction. And let me just read something from here. I got it from The Guardian, just to maybe say some of the points that I left out. Okay, so it says, I'll send the link in the group after a while. It says, what are the origins of the Libya war? It says, oil-rich Libya has been in chaos since the Arab Spring movement and NATO bombing campaign that toppled Gaddafi in 2011. Okay, so Libya is rich in oil, and no wonder why so many nations are interested, especially, I mean, Italy has most oil companies in Libya, and also Turkey wants to, well, he already has some companies, and it has some proposals in the pipeline to drill more, you know. So yeah, really the main issue is then who will be in control of the oil, and which companies or which nations will be allowed to drill and not to drill. And of course, that's why you see Russia there. It also has some, you know, all these nations, they are all interested because, you know, of this oil. It's rich in oil. And besides, if you read why Gaddafi was killed, perhaps, I'm not sure if, you know, I've not verified that, but you get to understand. So it says oil-rich Libya has been in chaos since Arab Spring movement and the NATO bombing that killed Gaddafi in 2011, and then attempts to build a democratic state after Gaddafi fell disintegrated into a new civil war between Raphia government in 2014. So after Gaddafi died, you know, there was an attempt to build a democratic government, but then it failed. The other thing is that it said that in Libya there are so many tribes, and Gaddafi had a skill. You know, he was able to put them, or to he was able to lead them, you know, in a way, or to make them agree on issues, or even if, you know, he was compromising, but then he was able to keep them together, though, you know, those tribes are different and all that, but, you know, he had this skill of keeping them together as a nation. So after he died, you know, there was no one with that much influence to keep them together. So that's why this democratic government that they tried to build after he died kind of failed. So, which then triggered the civil war that began in 2011 after the attempt failed. Okay, so who is currently fighting who? It says since 2014, the fighting has mainly been between rival centers of political power in East and West Libya. You know, the rival powers. We have the East and the West Libya. It says the Tripoli administration, this one, known as the GNA, the Government of National Accord, led by Sarai, and then the Tobruk administration, which decamped at the eastern city after disputed elections. So, and it says the Tobruk government appointed Haftar to lead the Libyan National Army and restore its sovereignty. So GNA is officially recognized by UN as the Libya's legitimate government. It holds legal power on the ground, and some distrust its Islamic politics. Okay, and then Haftar supporters say he is a bulwark against extremism, while others see him as another would-be military dictator. Okay, so the GNA, or what's his name? Sarraj. He's the leader here on the west side. He's recognized by the UN, but then the problem is that they don't have power. They don't hold so much power, so much territory. They have to. They just have the capital, and really the smaller space. The majority of the land and the people have been taken by Haftar, and even the army has been taken by Haftar. So yeah, And then the next point says, what is the international community doing? Over the past few years, foreign powers have increasingly intervened in Libya's civil war to defend their own strategic and economic interests. The GNA is backed by the UN and Western countries, but its main allies are Turkey, Qatar, and Italy. And LNA enjoys the support of Russia, Egypt, UAE, Saudi Arabia to a lesser extent, and then we have France and Jordan. Okay, so then what happened in 2019? Okay, so we've identified the civil war began in 2014, and there were attempts to to bring this war to an end. But then what happened? It says in 2019, Russia first rose to prominence in Libya in September 2019 after it deployed mercenaries to the front lines of Tripoli to bake concern in its head into Libya's civil war. Its presence in Libya was strikingly reminiscent of the decisive role it played in Syria, where it backed the regime of Assad to brutal effect and essentially saved the regime from collapse. Okay, so really during the year of 2019, there's been many attempts by the UN to negotiate and make the two parties agree. And Russia, because Russia has influence on Haftar, so it's Haftar who has not been cooperating. So Russia made it even worse in 2019 when Russia deployed mercenaries in the front lines of Tripoli, and then made the negotiations even harder to go forward. And and the writers, they are comparing this to what happened to Syria, where all of a sudden or just out of the blue, Russia supplies or gives so much support that it becomes hard for the opposition to counteract that. So it says Russia's inability to push Haftar into a ceasefire could be a sign that it does not have so much leverage over the warlord as it seems, or frankly that it isn't trying that hard. And a look at its activity elsewhere in Libya might offer some insight into the reason why. So to this end, Russia has allegedly deployed up to 200 Wagner Group mercenaries to buttress Haftar's forces, in addition to providing funds worth of 3 billion. That money, 3 billion, but that support was never enough to give Haftar the edge. 200 mercenaries could break the current military stalemate, but they can't seize and control territory as their own. Never mind, take the city of Tripoli. Okay, so what happens then September of 2019 is that Russia gives so much support, money-wise, or even sends its own soldiers. It's a group called the Wagner Group. I've not looked into much like really what the group does and all that, but it seems to be some special forces. And so they contributed some money, weapons, and even military support, and Raphia was able to gain even more territory. He just have not managed to get Tripoli, which is the capital. But then most of the land, after through the help of Russia, especially, has managed to gain the territory. And when Russia did that in September, then it kind of brought the agreements to a deadlock or to a dead end, because at least Haftar has to be willing to negotiate or to to take part in the negotiations so that the civil war ends. But then Haftar, because it's being backed by Russia, he's untouchable, and it made things worse. So by the time 2019 comes to an end, Libya is being compared to, what Russia has done in Libya is being compared to what he did in Syria. Because with Syria, of course, you have Donald Trump withdrawing the troops, and Russia with Assad and Turkey, they managed then to gain the territory and take the kids out of their way, and that was a victory for them. So in a way, this attempt or this act of Russia to supply after with so much support in 2019 was a victory for Russia. Because anyway, some of the oil, actually most of the oil, where they drill oil, I don't know what to call it. They are in the east, so they have kind of taken control of that. And Russia, of course, and the allies of Haftar are the ones that are benefiting, and these guys on the other side, their interests are not, or they're not happy yet. But then the war is still going on, and they're trying to counteract what Russia is doing and all that, and it's all gonna culminate in 2021 at the Battle of Kenya. Okay. Anyone with a question? Or a comment? Hello, are people there?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are here.
Okay, at least people are not sleeping.
I don't mind.
I can't hear you, Precious. Maybe just speak louder.
I don't mind another repeat on this. Just a summary when you have time, but time does not allow it. Yeah, the summary again.
I'm not sure if it's my phone, but you are very, maybe you are far from the gadget or something.
I was saying I don't mind another repeat on these two, just a summary again, if time allows. But if it doesn't allow, it's okay. But we also need notes on that. Yeah. But since Sister D is recording, maybe we can revisit it. It's okay.
Okay. All right.
Sister Letwin.
Hello.
Okay, sorry to bring you back. Like when you are talking about Yemen.
Okay, first, is this number or who? I need to know who I'm talking to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you are talking about Yemen, so
Mhm.
looking what has been happening in Yemen, so how do we connect it with the fulfillment of Raphia in 2019? Like I can get it with Libya, but maybe I missed that part with Yemen. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, yeah, maybe you missed the part. Before I began with Yemen, I did say that with Yemen, at least I haven't seen any specific event that's being marked in 2019. You know, that any event that took place to mark the fulfillment of the Battle of Raphia. You know, so it's just gonna be, it just has been a civil war going on since 2014, but then nothing specific has been marked or anything, nothing took place. Maybe maybe it's yet to be discovered, but from my side, I don't know of anything that took place in 2019. So as a result, I was just doing it so that at least we know, or at least we kind of enlightened or just know what's going on in Yemen, because I think it's something will happen. I think there's, okay, I don't know how to say. Okay, I just did it so that you may be able to understand and follow the event, because I do believe that when we get to the Battle of Penia, something is gonna happen, or there's gonna be a specific event that transpires to mark, you know, a fulfillment of Penia. So for us to understand and follow the events, we just need a little bit of summary that I've done. So I was not doing it to mark a fulfillment of the Battle of Raphia.
Thank you.
Okay. So just to bring this to a close, we are going to summarize, and the people that have assigned, make sure you are ready to turn on your mics and give us a summary. So we're looking at the Battle of Raphia, and we say that it's the battle between of the king of the north and the king of the south. The king of the north in our history is America, and the king of the south being Russia. And we identify that these two nations are not fighting for each other's territory. Russia is not fighting to get America, and America doesn't want Russia. But then they just want dominance, or they're fighting outside their border. You see, and that's why we're calling it the sphere of influence, because where we get this Battle of Raphia, we identify that Ptolemy didn't want the land of Seleucus, and Seleucus didn't want Ptolemy, but they were fighting for core Syria, where we get this concept of sphere of influence. So we then started listing, because when we do the present truth application of Raphia, it takes place in 2019. You see, 2019. That's where it comes to when? To an end. But then you can't have the end without what? The beginning. And so we learned, or we saw that the events that are coming, coming to an end or culminating in 2019, we can mark them beginning where? In 2014. So First Nation Africa, I think it's Gracious. So Gracious, please tell us what took place 2014 and like, yeah, and 2019. Gracious.
Hello.
Is it you who took Africa?
Yes, it's me.
Okay.
Okay, I'll try. I'll also need when I'm done, in case there are important points that I've missed, I would want you to help me with. Okay, so with Africa, like you have mentioned, all this time we've been learning about the Battle of Raphia. And with the Battle of Raphia, we are seeing the issue. And from this study, we have learned that it's history repeating itself. So we are in an age where it's the war. It's no longer hot war, but it's cold war. So the countries which are like in control, which have got influence, are not fighting directly against each other, but they are using other like it's happening through the the spheres of, like, they are not fighting directly like one against another, but other countries are like being used in that war. So I'm touching on Africa, and recently we have learned with Battle of Raphia that Russia, which is under Putin's president, is the one which is okay. Okay, let's leave this. So let me okay, the thing is there is the issue of fears of influence, right? So with Raphia, we are seeing Russia, it's been gaining influence with different countries around the world. And now I'm touching on Africa, and Africa, it's one of the countries which Russia has managed to gain more influence. So what I'm touching on, it's about the Nile River, which has brought three countries, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. But the two main countries which are like fighting on this whole thing, Egypt and Ethiopia. Ethiopia, actually, Egypt believes Nile River, it's like Nile River is its own. It believes it's their historic right. And as we were growing, we just thought Nile River is in Egypt. But as we are growing now, we are learning there are other countries also that are benefiting from Nile River. So to 2011, if I'm not mistaken, the three countries, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia, have been trying to negotiate on how much, let's say Ethiopia has built a dam, will it take from the Nile River? Because Egypt depends solely on the Nile River for farming, for electricity and all that. So if Ethiopia is to build a dam, Ethiopia on this is benefiting a lot because it's going to be able to supply its people electricity at a lower rate, and then the other countries, also neighboring countries, so it will be able also to generate income through this dam, through the electricity that they're going to be supplying. So on this whole thing, we are seeing Russia and America involved, because we see Putin here to come and meet with the two presidents from these two countries to negotiate, to find a way that they can be a balance. And Russia is sort of caught in between, because Russia has some good relations with Egypt, and also it has some relation with Ethiopia. So now Putin is coming in to help them to find like a ground where they can like work this whole thing out without anyone losing. And we are seeing America under Putin. Putin has been losing from his influence, like in most of the countries. So now he is actually putting sanctions on Ethiopia ever since they like continued with the building of the dam, and Trump is putting sanctions, and there are some aid which was supposed to come from the European countries, and it has been stopped due to the fact that Ethiopia proceeded with the building of the dam. So, yeah, with South Sudan, it's managed to found like they managed to agree on some things with Egypt. But with Egypt, it's the one that is going to lose more. Yeah, something like that.
Not something like that. That's that. Thank you, my sister. I like the way, I like the energy. and how you wanna get into the details and explain. Oh, thank you so much. That was a detailed summary. So it's the 2014 sanctions that led Putin to look for other markets. You know, Gracious has said it. Oh, I don't need to say anything. Thank you, my sister. I think maybe those that still have questions regarding Africa, you know, you can hear Gracious, you know, knows the story. You can ask even Sister Gracious to explain. Syria, I think it's Brother Alon now. Brother Alon.
Hello. So what's happening in Syria is that we have two natural gas pipeline propositions. The first one is it supports the Americans because the other countries besides Syria are American sphere of influence. Jordan, all these others are American influenced. So Syria is influenced by Russia. So Russia said, no, don't do this deal. Let's do another deal. And the next deal is Iran, Iraq, Syria, then under the Mediterranean Sea. So Russia likes this idea. So when the Syrian president allows this deal that supports Russia to go through, there happens to be a war. All the other countries that have lost on the deal are now against Syria. And then the countries that have won on the deal, like Russia, they are supporting Syria. So this causes a fight. The main reason for the fight is actually this pipeline, because it's going to produce a lot of money for whoever's on the right side of the deal. So it turns into a civil war because in Syria, people are just not happy by the way the Syrian government is ruling. So they protest. But then from Iraq, two groups are fighting, the Shia and the Sunni. When they get into Syria, they continue that fighting. They make this protest to the government to turn into a Shia versus Sunni fight. So as that's continuing, America's not getting involved until ISIL comes along. ISIL just wants to take the whole country, so it's causing havoc. So America comes in as somebody trying to control ISIL or ISIS. And as the fighting goes on, there comes to a point in to try and control ISIS. And then as the fighting goes on, eventually America is going to leave in 2019. When America leaves, Russia takes all the places that America used to be taking control of. So that'll be a short summary of Syria.
Okay, thank you, Alo. Thank you. If anyone needs clarifications about Syria, you had Brother Alonel is the contact person. Who took China? Okay. Nhlakanipho, which one did you take? Nhlakanipho.
I lost the gracious. I took Turkey.
Okay. Yeah, Turkey.
Oh,
You
I
can,
thought maybe
you
it
can
was.
shoot.
I thought it was sequential. China, Venezuela. I not fair, my sister. You
But
got
then I don't remember who took these ones, but I know everyone that I allocated. So I know there's Nhlakanipho, there's Nombo, there's Nombuso, you know. So I'm now just gonna call names.
yeah. Hey. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me go to, okay, because I was thinking of Alonel. I'm saying this because I was thinking Alonel will make an introduction. So he didn't make any introduction, but it's fine. Me, I took taking. So what we see there in taking is that okay, where do I start? Okay, yes. I just want to make this introduction first. You were explaining about an oil. So what happened from 1979 is that the civil war was about oil. Then when we come to the history from 2011, the history of war, it starts to change. It's no longer oil, but we start to see what we start to see the war is taking place based upon what's on gas, as what Brother Alonelo was saying. So yeah. So what was happening is that this war continued, as Alonel was saying, up until 2014. So, and onward. Yeah, I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm trying. So as this war was
Okay.
yeah, as this war was taking place, we saw that Turkey, it is pro America, and it is also an ally of NATO, right? So what was going on there was that when America entered into a collision in 2014, Turkey, if I'm not mistaken, yes, Turkey donned the Russian airplane. And other people from the document, when I was just going through, they were saying that some speculation which were being made was that Turkey wanted to weaken the relationship which was going on there. Because Turkey were also fighting against Syria. based upon this gases pipeline. And we also saw from the history when you were explaining to us that Qatar is the one which is having most of this gas, but it wants to supply this gas to Europe. And the European countries, they want to be independent. And the reason that they want to be independent, that they were depending upon Russia, and Russia was controlling Syria. So the European countries were being detected by Russia. So they wanted a plan so that they can receive this gas market at the lowest price. So what was the plan? The plan was brought by Turkey that they wanted. The plan was brought by Qatar. Qatar wanted to put Turkey on the middle because it was close to Asia and Europe. So this gas will go bypass to Turkey, and by so doing, remembering that Turkey is pro America, and also America had its own plan. I'm saying a lot of things, but you forgive me. Had its own plan. Its plan was that they also wanted to find a way of transporting gas so that it can bypass through them. But their plan was going to take a long period, so they couldn't take that it couldn't work. It couldn't work that plan. So plan was that Qatar was going to put Turkey on the middle to supply the European countries. And by so doing, it was going to benefit from all the resources, or because it's acted as a middleman. So yeah, that's history. Maybe prior before to hello. I think
Okay, I'm saying we're running out of time. At least maybe I know I know there are so many details around it and all that. I'm just gonna refer people to you, regarding Ukraine. But then just straight to the point, say 2014 this happens, 2019 this happens, so that others get to say, their nations before maybe network or airtime, data and all that, because we're also out of time.
Okay.
We're running out of time.
Yeah, 2019, America withdraw its troops from Syria, and what happened? No, let me stop there. People, they will come to me. No, I can't.
Just say that final thing. Just say that final thing. What happened?
Yeah, America withdraw troops from Syria, and Russia was waiting for this opportunity to be taken. And when America withdraw troops from Syria, Russia took place, and that's what we mark as a Battle of Raphia. And there was a war which was going on with the Kurds, how they were being affected, because northern Syria, which are the Turk and the Syria, were starting to attack the Turk. We're starting to attack the Kurds, and when they're starting to attack the Kurds, America invaded. And when they were invading, protecting the Kurds, they were playing a role of protecting the Kurds up until 2019. When they withdraw their troops, the Kurds were being persecuted, and they were having a much volume or space in Turkey. And when America withdraw its protection from the Kurds, the Turkey started to persecute the Kurds. And also another thing which is very important, the NATO, it was there to prevent the Communist Party. So when America rejects Turkey, and when it's starting to put sanction, Russia accepted Turkey, and this was a goal for Russia, which is what they wanted to enter into a NATO, or something like that. Yeah, I'll stop here.
Thank you. Not something like that. That's it. Thank you, my brother. I like the way you narrated. Like, I can tell it at the top of your head. Thank you. Anyone who needs clarifications with Turkey, Brother Nhlakanipho is the person. Sister Nombo. Sister Nombo. Nombo, are you still here? Yeah. Is it just me or what?
Maybe move on to the next person, and then when she returns, we can continue.
Okay. Nambuso, are you there? Nambuso? Yeah. I've forgotten the other volunteers. Where are they? Where are the other volunteers, by the way? I didn't write that thing down. I thought I was going to remember. Brother Coach, I think I remember allocating something to you. Brother Coach, Sister Nombo, Nombuso, whoever is there, please.
Bring it home.
Maybe Ezile should take it for Nombo.
No, she's back.
Tell her to come online,
Okay.
otherwise you're gonna take it over.
Is she here?
Your students have run away, Letwin.
Hey, Nombo is here. Nombo, please unmute your mic.
And where is Nombuso?
Nombuso is gone. Okay, maybe Nombo is having some technical issues because we're out of time already. Ezile, do you want to assist her? Ezile is gone again. Okay, let me just do it. Any volunteer? People were doing this so nice, so let's just finish it off the way we started. Any volunteer, please? Okay, with China, because of the sanctions that Putin gets after invading or after annexing Crimea. Okay, Russia annexes Crimea in 2014, and sanctions are put on Russia because of that. And then after that, Russia tries to make other to look for other markets, trying to counteract that. And one of those places where he goes to is China. And 2014, is it when the deal? Oh, it's the construction of the construction sort of the pipeline. So Russia and China agrees to build a pipe to build a pipe that's gonna supply China with gas, and that's I've forgotten, but I think it's 400 million, if not 400 billion, but it's big money. Okay, so the pipe is built as from 2014, and December 2019 it's done. The two nations are celebrating, and it's all good news. And you remember, Russia always wants to use, it actually uses gas or whatever resources it supplies to other nations as a weapon of a sphere of influence. So now that it has China, so that's a victory for what? For Putin. And besides, China has been having, ongoing issues with America. You remember the tariffs and all that. So now the two countries have come together to counteract what the Trump administration is doing. In Venezuela, we have protests beginning in 2014 because of Maduro, the way things are going. People are not having access to medical supplies. There is no, the employment is down and all that. And really, Maduro inherited this from the previous leader. The previous leader had been trying to make people happy by giving subsidies, making things much cheaper, but then he did that at the expense of the economy. So when we get to 2014, inflation skyrockets and things get bad. So 2014 protests begin, and then when we get to 2019, okay, so when we get to 2019, there had been elections in 2018, and Maduro is made the president again, but then the results are not recognized because they say to have most people did not vote, and the UN, they did not recognize those votes. But then Putin comes in last minute and makes sure that Maduro does not go anywhere. He stays in power. In Ukraine, you have annexation of Crimea in 2014. But then what we looked at specifically with Ukraine are the two conspiracy theories. The one, the first one about, we know in 2016, Russia got involved in American elections. But then Russia is denying all that, and then he came up with a conspiracy and say that actually it's Ukraine that got involved in the American elections, and actually Trump bought that story. So in that July call that Trump has with Zelensky, he asked Zelensky to investigate that, and also investigate Joe Biden's son, the Burisma company, and all that. So with Ukraine, we only mark the conspiracy theories, and because the mode of warfare has changed, conspiracies are part of the weapons and all that. So I think that is that. And of course, today we look at Libya, where we have after. And 2014, that's where the revolutions or the civil war began. Okay. I'm sorry, we are over time, I think by 10 minutes or so. So let's close in prayer. And perhaps if people have questions and anything to say, they'll say it, after we've prayed. Okay, let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you, Lord, for being with us during this hour and a half, Lord, as we're looking at the events that are taking place throughout in this world and how they are their fulfillment of prophecy. Lord, you have raised us up, the priests, first to understand these things so that those that come after us, the Levites and the Nethinims, so that we may be able to explain these things to them so that they may see how we have declared these things from the beginning. May also these things really help us and work on our hearts so that, Lord, we may be prepared for the work which will begin soon as the Levites will be gathered. Be with us on this Sabbath day, which each and every one of us in various places. May you bless us accordingly and help us, Lord, to ever keep our thoughts lifted upwards. Thank you. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
That is
Amen. Lord.
that easy.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Sister
you
D.
again. Thank you again for taking us through this study. Does this conclude your series on Raphia?
Yes, it does.
Thanks so much for taking us through this complicated study and making it really simple. Greetings to everyone. I hope you have enjoyed this course on this study. Let's meet again next Sabbath at 9 o'clock, and may God bless everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.